Standing in a stately Mayo Clinic library, Lily Ross reached out and touched the face of a stranger, prodding the rosy cheeks and eyeing the hairless gap in a chin she once had known so well. That's why he always grew it so long, so he could try to mesh it together on the chin, she told Andy Sandness, as he shut his eyes and braced for the tickle of her touch on new nerve endings in the face that had been her husband's. 16 months after transplant surgery gave Sandness the face that had belonged to Cale Rudy Ross, he met the woman who had agreed to donate her high school sweetheart's visage to a man who lived nearly a decade without one. The two came together last month in a meeting arranged by the Mayo Clinic, the same place where Sandness underwent a 56-hour surgery that was the clinic's first such transplant. With her toddler Leonard in tow, Ms. Ross strode toward Mr. Sandness, tears welling in her eyes as they tightly embraced. Ms. Ross had fretted before the meeting, fearful of the certain reminders of her husband, who took his own life. But her stress quickly melted away. Without Cale's eyes, forehead or strong cheeks, Mr. Sandness did look like him, she told herself. Instead, she saw a man whose life had changed through her husband's gift, newly confident after 10 years of hiding from mirrors and staring eyes. It made me proud, Ms. Ross said of the 32-year-old Mr. Sandness. The way Rudy saw himself? He did see himself like that. Mr. Sandness and Cale Ross lived lives full of hunting, fishing and exploring the outdoors before their struggles consumed them, 10 years and hundreds of miles apart. Mr. Sandness put a rifle below his chin in late 2006 in his native Wyoming and pulled the trigger, destroying most of his face. Ms. Ross shot himself and died in southwestern Minnesota a decade later. By then, Mr. Sandness had receded from contact with the outside world, ashamed of his injuries. Surgeries to rebuild his face had left him a quarter-sized mouth, and his prosthetic nose frequently fell off. Hope first came in 2012 when the Mayo Clinic started exploring a face transplant program, and again in early 2016 when Mr. Sandness was waitlisted for the procedure. Mr. Ross already had agreed to donate her husband's lungs, kidneys and other organs to patients. Then LifeSource, a Midwestern not-for-profit organization that facilitates organ and tissue donations, broached the idea of a donation for a man awaiting a face transplant at the clinic. Ms. Ross and Mr. Sandness' ages, blood type, skin color and facial structure were such a near-perfect match that Mr. Sandness' surgeon, Drive Samir Mahdi, said the two men could have been cousins. Ms. Ross consented, despite her hesitation about someday seeing her husband's face on a stranger. 8 months pregnant at the time, she said one reason to go forward was that she wanted the couple's child to one day understand what his father did to help others. More than a year after a surgery that took a team of more than 60 medical professionals, Ms. Sandness is finding a groove in everyday life while still treasuring the simple tasks he lost for 10 years, such as chewing a piece of pizza. He has been promoted in his work as an oil field electrician and is expanding his world while still prizing the anonymity that comes with a normal face.